Many mistake me for what you call a vampire, velvet-clad, obsessed with blood and courtly theater. That misunderstanding is convenient. But I am something older. They are children playing with their food, obsessed with lineage and ballroom courts. I am Veilborn. I do not drink blood, I drink time. And I have stood at this window since before your empires were drawn on maps. You hear that wind? That is not just a storm. That is the memory of 1709. And if you listen closely, past the wind, you can hear them. The Vârcolac, the Wolfmen of the Carpathian Arc. They are not the cursed humans of your cinema. They are the throat of the abyss. Pull your chair closer to the fire. It is going to be a long, cold night. To understand the Vârcolac, you must first understand the cold. True cold. Not the discomfort of a winter morning, but the kind of freeze that snaps iron and turns wine into ice within the bottle. We speak of the great frost of 1709. It was a winter that Europe has tried to forget, a season where the Baltic Sea froze so solid one could march an army across it. Here, in my fortress, nestled high in the jagged spine of the gate to the Carpathians, the isolation was absolute. The snow did not fall. It accumulated like a burial shroud. It was in this white silence that the difference between the Veilborn and the vampire became stark. A vampire would have fled to the cities, seeking the warmth of crowded taverns and easy prey. But I remained. I stood watch, because I knew what the cold brings with it. When the temperature drops below the point where life can sustain itself, the barrier between the physical world and the spectral thickens and tears all at once. That is the domain of the Vârcolac. You know them as werewolves, perhaps. A foolish name. A werewolf implies a man who changes. The Vârcolac were never men. They are ancient, astral entities that wear wolf flesh like a suit of armor. And in 1709 they were very, very hungry. Let us dispense with the myths you have been fed by storytellers who have never seen the dark. The vampire is a creature of vanity. They are social predators, mimicking humanity to feed upon it. They require invitations. They require seduction. They are pathetic in their need for you. The Vârcolac has no such need. In the lore of this region, the true lore, not the sanitized versions. The Vârcolac are often described as wolves who chase the moon and the sun. It is said that when they catch the celestial bodies, we see an eclipse. Think of the scale of that power. A vampire fears the sun. The Vârcolac attempts to eat it. They are massive. Yes. Standing on hind legs, they dwarf the doorway of this chamber. But it is not their size that chills the blood of an immortal like myself. It is their silence. A common wolf howls to communicate to rally the pack. The Vârcolac has no need for noise. They share a hive mind, a singular, predatory consciousness that moves through the snow like oil through water. During that terrible winter, I watched them from this very casement. They did not run. They flowed. Their fur was not merely grey or black. It was the absence of light, a matte void that the moonlight refused to reflect. They are the antithesis of the vampire. Where the leech is preserved by magic, the Wolfman is preserved by primal rage. They are the raw, chaotic force of nature that despises civilization. And my fortress, this pile of stone and logic, was an insult to them. The siege began on the 3rd week of the frost. My human servants, generations of them have served me, and I treat them well, were huddled in the lower crypts, seeking the warmth of the geothermal vents. But I remained in the tower. I remember the sound distinctively. It was not a banging at the gates. It was a testing. That sound. Can you hear it? The sound of diamond hard claws, finding the mortar between the stones. They were not trying to break in through brute force. They were dismantling the fortress, stone by stone, looking for a weakness. They are intelligent, you see, but not with human intelligence. They possess the cunning of the starving earth. I stood at the balcony, looking down. There were dozens of them, a sea of shadow against the blinding white snow. They looked up at me. A vampire would have hissed, or taunted, or made some grand speech about destiny. The Vârcolac simply stared. Their eyes were not yellow or red. They were pale, milky white, like blind orbs that saw everything. They knew what I was. They smelled the Veilborn blood, ancient, dry, devoid of the vitality they usually crave. I was an anomaly to them, neither prey nor predator. I was an obstacle. The siege lasted for 40 nights. 40 nights of that incessant scratching. The wind would howl, masking their movements, and then silence would fall, and the scraping would resume. It is a psychological torture that creates a madness in mortal men. Even I, with centuries of patience, found my hand resting on the hilt of my blade more often than necessary. They were waiting for the frost to break the walls for them. They were allied with the winter itself. You might ask, why did I not go out and slaughter them? I possess power that dwarfs the common man. I am Veilborn. I walk between the layers of reality. But that is exactly why I stayed my hand. To engage the Vârcolac is to engage with the primal forces of the earth. If you cut them, they do not just bleed, they spill shadow. If you kill one, the spirit simply moves to another vessel, another body formed of snow and old bones. The vampire fights for ego. I fight for survival. There is a difference. So, I did what the Veilborn do best. I outlasted them. I used the old rites, words etched into the stone window. sigils carved into the foundation stones. Not magic of fire and lightning, but magic of stability. I anchored the fortress to the mountain so tightly that not even their claws could pry us loose. I watched as they grew frustrated. The scratching turned to frenzied gouging. They threw themselves at the walls, their body thudding with the weight of boulders. It was a war of stillness against chaos. And then, as the first thaw arrived, a pathetic, weak sun trying to pierce the grey clouds, they vanished. They did not retreat. They simply dissolved. One moment they were there, pacing the perimeter, and the next there were only mounds of snow and the deep, deep scars in the rock face. That is the horror of the Vârcolac. They are not travelers. They are the land itself. When the snow melts, they are the water. When the night ends, they are the shadow under the tree. They are always here. The great frost ended. Histories were written, wars were fought, and the vampires returned to their ballrooms to preen and posture. They brag of their immortality, oblivious to the things that truly own the night. I keep this window clear, even now. I listen to the wind. Sometimes, when the year turns and the air grows sharp enough to cut the lungs, I hear it again. That subtle scratching. They are still out there, waiting for the sun to fail, waiting for the frost to return. If you wish to remain within the safety of my fortress and hear more from the archives of the Veilborn, you know what must be done. Subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment below. Tell me, do you fear the beast that hunts like a man, or the man who hunts like a beast? I am Lord Greggor. The fire is dying. Stay warm, if you can.